Man, we gotta find a fade.
Awakening
It's too
Within. Every week I say I'm going to do something about that, and then I don't do it.
Fade it out.
I know. You know what? That's on my to-do task list. Okay, cool. By Monday.
Well,
but I need new video
tonight.
I know. Who's here? It says 5 people are here.
Well,
hello.
That's good.
How are you?
I can't see any numbers, so I'm glad you're telling me some people are here because
come say
it's
hi.
Looking awful lonely on my side of the screen. There's
Don't
just
be
you
lonely.
and me.
Oh no, we lost one. Oh hey, it's our world traveler there, Jeffrey Hooper. Mm-hmm. He was down at the studio. Tell us about it, Jeff. I want to know what you saw down in Tampa.
Well, he was down there, eh?
Yeah, he has a dog that has to go and check out the stadiums and all the things so that there are no bombs. He's got an exciting job.
I actually have a cousin who lives in Phoenix. He's got 2 dogs, but they're not bomb sniffers. They're drug sniffers.
Yeah, his is fun.
I know all about the sniffers.
I have a feeling. So tell us anything, Jeff. Any stories from there? Tell us.
Well, obviously they didn't sniff anything because the Super Bowl happened.
It happened.
The only bomb that I saw was the Chiefs.
No, I knew you were going to say that.
The Chiefs totally bombed.
We can't talk about. We don't talk about this.
Oh, really? Okay, maybe that's what's going on. That what I'm feeling.
What does Jason say? Jeff, you're not going to tell us a story? Oh, I'm so mad now. Thanks, Jeff. Keep me hanging. I see how you are. Let's see. Sandy likes to surprise you and catch you out with her sudden ending to the intro.
Exactly. It's sort of like going on a date and then, the girl just suddenly just walks away. It's like, I was just warming up here, Sandy. And then you just drop me. It's
I know.
You just went boom.
And now you can see my lights as I talk. My lights are going on. Very boring. COVID had everybody on lockdown. Aw, Jeff, I'm sorry. That's why they didn't win. Because they didn't pet the dog. They usually, that's their good luck charm. They pet the dog. Seriously. Jeff, tell him. Hey, Dr. Boney. How are you? Best fan here. I'm glad. We're glad to see you. How are you? We need to bring you on the show again. We need some repeats.
So I had a funny thought.
What?
About us. So you're broadcasting from Kansas, right?
Right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm broadcasting from Missouri.
Oh, we're like multi.
Well, no, if you think about this, for people who are not from this area of the country, if this would have been 150 years ago, this would be a border war.
Ooh, a border war.
See, you would be a Jayhawker.
Oh, no.
And coming over on my side to steal slaves, right?
Oh, okay.
And then I'd be going back over there on your side and beating you up, you see?
Oh, no. Don't beat me up. I'm from Missouri.
Exactly. So I'm not sure I really like being from Missouri in that context because that's like being the bad guys. But anyways, it is funny how, history, plays itself out because you still have the border wars when it comes to sports. But, for people who don't know the demographics, even though we're on the same show, we're actually broadcasting from different states.
Yeah, well, hi, Larry. Larry's over here in Kansas with me. Thank you, Larry, for joining.
Well,
Dr. Boney, where is he? Where are you at, Dr. Boney? When he's
up in Gladstone area. I think he's North Casey. So he's north of the river.
Okay, so he's Missouri.
He's in Kansas City, culture, that's like aliens. You know, anybody who lives across the river, it's like, oh, those people up there.
Well, apparently the audience noticed you have new specs on.
Well,
Jason,
thank you, Jason, for noticing. So what
Jason's from
actually
way
happened
far.
was I had a favorite pair of black glasses that
Uh-huh.
for some reason the little thing broke, and I
Oh,
had them on
no.
back order, you know, during COVID. Well, it ended up being a disaster. So I finally bought another pair. So yes, I have my clear ones and my dark ones. So
Well, I decided to wear my specs tonight. Sometimes I don't wear them. But let's see. Okay, so Dr. B is in North KC. Jason, where are you? You didn't say where you're at.
Well, how about Jeffrey? He's on Lake Lotawana.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like Lake Lotawana. That's a cool place.
I've never been. He always says he's going to have a bonfire party.
You have
one.
to come on our side. You have to come across the border.
He always says, don't you, Jeff? Always says, yeah, I'm going to have a bonfire. Have a bonfire party.
I don't know if Jason is aware of this, but he would be a typical case in point that whenever I would travel around the world in the music business, people would forever say, oh, you're from Kansas City, Kansas.
Oh.
Like foreigners have no idea that most of Kansas City is actually on the Missouri side. They just assume because it says Kansas City, it's on the Kansas side. So I constantly
had to correct them.
In the first few years, I was constantly correcting people, and then I just got tired of it. And I just went, yeah.
Okay, why is Dr. B laughing?
To explain.
When did you call him an alien?
I told him, I said, you know, in Kansas City culture, people that lived across the river weren't part of Kansas City. They were like aliens. They were other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why, you know, one of the great planning disasters happened in Kansas City, which was they built the airport up there.
Oh.
And the assumption was, so they built this massive airport up there. And the assumption was that everyone would move towards the airport because that's what happened in other metropolitan areas. Wherever you build the airport, people tend to fill in the empty space. It never happened. And they discovered that the river was a psychological barrier. People didn't think once you cross the river, you were in Kansas City. So
they can't go across the river.
They couldn't go across the river. It was just like weird. So it's like when you go to the airport, it's like going to another country.
It's true. I mean? It's true. It's like off on its own. But I love that about Kansas City. So if you guys ever come to Kansas City, MCI. It's an easy trip in and an easy airport
coming,
in and out.
Really
Oh, and Jason says you look like you have a smooth shave.
I have a smooth shave?
I don't know. That's what he said. He looks like he did. I don't know.
Are you talking about on top?
Apparently they all notice stuff that I'm just like clueless. Apparently,
I know.
I'm just
Jason's like,
today.
I mean, now I'm like going to be all, self-conscious when I get on the show because Jason's got me all figured out here. That's what happens when you have a high dev camera. You see what I mean?
You're not wearing orange anymore every show. You were wearing orange every show.
Sort of a summertime color.
And Jason's in Aussie land.
Exactly. He's in Melbourne, Aussie land. So.
Aussie land. Aussie. I didn't understand that. Like, when everybody would say Aussie, I never knew it was spelled that way.
Well, it's not Aussie. It's Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Oh, jeez. Hi, Carol. I think she was supposed to say hi, and it says blank. So there you are.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Lynn. Thanks for joining.
Oh, man.
Lynn has an awesome show. You got to check her show out.
Back. We sort of felt abandoned last week. We got on the show, and it was like having a drink at the bar, and it was just me and Sandy. Like,
we had a drink at the bar.
It was like
by the way,
cheers.
Mugs.
What?
Yeah, mugs up.
Okay.
I have a mug.
It was like cheers, except for the whole cast was gone. It was just the bartender.
Yeah, now they're here.
What was Sam, and what was the girl that was the big star?
What?
On
Cheers. Diane.
Whatever her name was, the waitress or whatever.
Or maybe not, as I can now see his chin. Okay, I don't know.
That's
It's
just
Mikey's
because I have my
birthday.
mic up higher this
How
time.
do how do they know whose birthday it is? Wow, they're like getting really good. It's
It's
Mikey's
true.
birthday tomorrow.
Mikey's got a
Where
birthday
is
tomorrow. I
Mikey?
don't. He's not on the show right now. Maybe he'll tune in later. But
Mikey,
yeah,
where are
Mikey's
you?
got a birthday tomorrow.
So, hey, Lynn, nice.
So
Thank
I
you
was
for
teasing
joining
him. We had a long conversation today because I'm in a space that I'm trying to sort through. And
us.
he told me that Yuri was born, and I was like, wow, you
Cheers.
know, he wasn't
What's
even
up?
born when Kennedy got assassinated, you know, and he was like 5 days old when the Beatles came to America. And I'm like, man, you just missed all these cultural moments, dude. You were
Well,
still in diapers.
okay. What year was he? Well, now I want to ask what
He was
year.
born in 64.
He was. Oh, he's older than me.
Oh,
He's older than me.
exactly.
Ooh,
So we were talking about he's a tweener.
he's a tweener.
Yeah, you're
I'm
probably
a
a tweener, right? He's a Gen, what is it? Gen X
Gen
and
X. Yeah,
Boomer.
I'm
He's
a Gen
caught right
X.
in on the
Yeah,
divide there.
I'm a Gen X. So
Ooh, you're Gen
thanks,
X.
Lynn. So Lynn has
That's
a
why you like
show.
all the 80s songs.
Yes. Lynn, check out Lynn's show. I share her show sometimes on my timeline.
Oh, nice.
She's got a great, awesome show and great people. Up, here he is. Hello, Michael. Me?
So we should sing him happy birthday, except for I don't want to sing. So
I'm not singing.
you didn't make him a cake?
I didn't. I have some football cupcakes
That's
that
what
say Super Bowl on it.
go get a Hostess Twinkie and stick a candle in it and go, there you go, Mikey.
I know. Let's have the audience sing him happy birthday. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday. Yeah, you guys take
Exactly.
it. Take it.
Yeah.
Take it. So they got a 20-second delay too. So
Yeah.
you were saying that you were feeling a little off. And you know, it's funny. I feel a little off this week as well.
Oh, do you?
Too. But yeah, I think actually a friend of mine, she said, wow, the energy is like really weird right now. And I said, yeah,
Okay.
it kind of is kind of weird, right? And so yeah. Oh, do what Lynn says. Come visit her show. So
Well, that's good because I actually, as
I
I
feel
said to you
off
before I get
too.
on the show, I've been in a weird space. I had a long conversation with Michael about it a little bit earlier, and I was like, well, maybe Sandy and I will flesh it out a little bit tonight because
Well,
I have a difficult time because of my personality, sometimes separating my own journey and my own feelings from what I'm feeling as I
mhm.
drive around town. And I was telling Mike earlier that it's a weird vibe right now. And I'm thinking, well, is it just Kansas City? Is it the whole country? But it's like there's this I don't know what I feel like I'm in this empty space. Like there's this weird lull. There's like a
Yeah.
lull, there's a lostness.
Yeah.
I'm trying to describe some of this. I feel like people are confused. It's like they're caught between a lot of things, and so because they don't know which way to go, it's like they go nowhere. You know what I mean? I was sharing with a friend from Hawaii earlier in the week that one of the things that's happened to us culturally is we've moved away from a very clear set of standards, moral, ethical, and values that were very defined.
Yeah.
And we're in this world right now of relativism. So we have relative morals, relative ethics, and relative values. And everything is confusing, right? Because we used to all agree on what those things are. Now we don't
No, we
agree. And
don't.
so I've noticed this in social media that people aren't even talking anymore because they don't really know where everybody else is at, and they're afraid they're gonna. It's like living in a landmine field right now.
Well,
Am
okay.
I communicating how you're
Yes,
feeling?
you're
Or are you feeling
communicating
different?
it. And funny because I pulled up this graphic earlier and I'm just gonna post it. Where focus goes, energy flows. So you might be feeling that, but for me, where where focus flows. So where are you focusing? Because sometimes that's where we get stuck. So I feel like my focus has been in an entrepreneurial place lately. And so of course I'm hearing all these good things, coming out of these other avenues of media. Okay. So I've cut myself off of all the other media. Like I'm not listening to anything on the news at all. Are you watching some news? I mean, is that coming at you?
Well,
Do you
I
think you're
don't.
getting influenced energy wise, by that?
I
Because
read
that's
the news.
where,
I don't really watch it. Like I
yeah,
don't really watch Fox or CNN. I read stuff.
right.
But part of the reason for that is because in watching it, there's a whole energy there.
Yes.
And that sticks to me. Where reading it, there's a little bit of separation. It's like
Yeah.
more information versus, where on the shows it just gets so dramatic, and
Yeah. Well, and look what Michael says. It's post-holiday, winter blah, NFL, pandemic, social conflict. I mean, there is a lot going on. And of course, I know Chiefs weren't your only team that you root
yeah, I
for,
had
but
both my
that was
teams
kind of
go out at
depressing.
the NFL, at the NFC and AFC championship. So it was a double whammy.
Yeah. So Lynn says we need more love in the world. Yep. We I think we all try. I mean, let's see, nothing flown in Kansas City right now, all the frozen. That's half of it too.
That's true.
I don't know. I you know, I can get depressed at this time because of the seasonal affective.
Yeah. Okay.
I have to have light. I have to have we have one of those artificial sunshine lights, when there's no sunshine, and it's been cold here, dreary, team lost. I mean, I think it is all of it together. But at the
Right.
same time, I think we're all indifferent. Does that make sense? We're kind of indifferent right now because we don't have anything that we don't know. We kind of don't know where we're going.
Yeah, exactly. That's the lost
Kind of
feeling.
don't know where we're going. And like
Right.
for
That's what I mean. There's this feeling like people are lost.
yeah, and so that's where I'm an A type personality, right? So I'm the extrovert, the A type, the one that's going to go, well, if it's not going to be good, I'm going to make it good because I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go feed myself over here with this and that. But you're more of an intuitive empath, so you're feeling other people's stuff. Like me, I kind of divert other people's stuff. Does that make
Got it.
sense? I divert and
That makes sense.
but I feel the same thing as you. I just don't absorb it. I deflect it. So
Well, my
I deflect
tendency,
it because I go,
the other dysfunctional side of me is that you want to go rescue everyone. You know what I mean? And yet we're dealing with something that's at such the size and scope and width of this thing is so massive. It's like there's, so it's hard. I was on every Thursday I have a 30-minute call with my 94-year-old mom up in Chicago, and we were just talking about it today, and she said to me, she goes, I miss you so bad, I said, oh, it would just be nice to sit in a chair and hold your hand. Like, you don't even have to say anything. And she goes, you know what? I just need a hug. Like, she goes, everyone calls me, all the nieces and nephews and my sisters, but no one touches me.
That's
and
horrible.
I was just thinking about, that wears on you. You know what I mean? And I was thinking about how this pandemic has not only isolated us, relationally, but humans need to be touched.
Yeah.
We need to be hugged and held and you know what I mean? And it's like if you're in the Judeo-Christian world, every Sunday you would go to church and what would you do? People that were even introverts, you at least shake somebody's hand, right? But most people were hugging. Most people were touching. Most people were showing each other affection, right? You were genuinely glad to see
Yeah.
your friends and colleagues, right?
That's
And
right.
that's all been gone for what? We're nearly a year into it. In another
Yeah.
month,
Yeah.
we're going to be year. I mean, we've been for a whole year isolated.
So what do
You
you?
go into, you've been out in some of the bars, right? It's
Yeah.
a weird feeling for me. I walk into these bars and it's like a ghost town.
Yeah.
Like, I went into this place and it was a hubbub of activity, of interaction, and people talking and
Yeah.
sharing. And
People get
suddenly
mad at
now
me.
what?
People get mad at me over that.
Oh, that you go out?
They judge me and get mad at
Sure.
me.
And so guess what? So now
Still.
people don't even talk.
They get mad at me. They just
Right.
they're like, "Why are you out?" And I'm like, "Well, one, because
But
I
no,
am relational.
what
I
you're-
have to. It's
no,
part
but
of
what
me."
you're bringing up is another piece of this puzzle, right? And I've noticed that on social media, especially in the Facebook world, how little people are commenting. And the reason is people are suddenly now so traumatized
They are.
any comment or observation because they're going to get people piling on them.
They kind of right, and I know that they're judging me, and I know that but they didn't unfriend me though. That's the interesting part. They're judging
Savannah
me.
just said that that some of us need the human contact.
I have
Well,
to.
it's not some of us. The reality of Savannah is all of us. I mean,
I have
God
to.
created us in
Yes.
a way that we have to be relational. There's a reason why we have families. There's a reason why a mother carries the baby for 9 months in her womb. You know what I mean? There's a reason why
we're relational people. We're relational. We're
Right.
relational. Yes.
The very fabric of our society is
that's why God
relationship.
created us, was because he wanted relation.
Right.
He wanted to have a relationship with something, somebody, some people.
So we're actually, I mean, this sounds like a paradox, but we're in the most natural, unnatural moment, meaning that we have a natural bug, you know what I mean, that's affecting everything, but it's creating unnatural situations.
It's making
it's a paradox, right? So on the one hand, we're all trying to figure out how to be practically and what's the word I'm looking for? Being practically wise, right?
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with a natural phenomena.
We're dealing with a real thing, a real virus, a real threat to your health. I mean, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's creating an unnatural situation where human beings are all having to be isolated.
There are so many people that are still in fear from last year. I mean, I know of them personally, and it does bother me very much. And I know that they're judging me. I know that they're upset with me because they see me out.
What does that cause you to do then? You're not sharing. I noticed this about you. So you quit sharing your social activities.
Yeah, somewhat. Then you'll see me.
Actually, you don't post. I mean, if you post something when you're out, it's always an empty room. There's you and two people, right? Nobody's posting. No one is posting pictures of them in a group. And why is that? Because of the very thing that you just said. You get annihilated.
They're judging me, terribly. I mean, over Christmas, because I had COVID right before Christmas, and then I went out and took pictures of a dinosaur that's already extinct that I gave COVID to. Anyway, it was all my
fault. What's going on right now, and it's brutal. I'm just, I just feel like.
Well, I can't let Michael's comment go away, though.
Which one? Oh,
he's nominating Larry and Jason to hug you.
Well,
they're all surrounding you right now and giving you a hug. It's an
expensive proposition for Jason because that's a long way to fly for a hug.
Yeah, well, he better fly that far for a hug. What'd I say?
Mm-hmm.
See, Savannah says, I'm glad you go out. Some of us need the human contact. She actually was sweet and joined the gym with me. So now we go to the same gym, and so we can hang out. social distanced and exercise. So
Oh.
there you go. Well, I'm probably being judged for that too. Wait a minute. Hold on. Yes, I go to the gym too. So I go to all the hot spots.
I just sometimes, how
So
there's a term. I'm trying to think of what the term is, but when you've seen something so many times, you grow weary of it, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like, to me, I think part of what I'm sensing in people is that people are realizing that, come March, we're 1 year into this.
Yeah.
And that's a long, like, when you stop and think, I've been isolating and dealing with criticism and dealing with conflict and dealing with all this stuff for a year, and I'm tired. Like, I'm weary. Like, I just think people are burned out. Like, people are just, they're exhausted from it all. And what I worry about is that we're going to continue to isolate, right? We don't want to share our thoughts and feelings on social media because we don't want to get crucified.
Right.
And so we isolate. So the one place that we do have to interact, which is social media, people have quit sharing most of their intimate feelings.
We're not going
to being criticized.
Right. I've got,
you see what's happening to us, though? It's compounding. So it's not only that we're dealing with COVID, right?
Right.
That's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle, though, is this us versus them, politics, right?
Yes.
This us versus them morality, ethics. It's like we're so polarized as a culture right now that it feels, it seems to me that I think a lot of people feel like I'm lost in the middle because, the old adage, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Yes. Right? You got 10% on the extreme left and 10% on the extreme right. And all the news is about the extremes. And the majority of people who live in the middle are lost right now because it's just like anything you say or do,
If you didn't get into the politics thing, okay, say you weren't in that box and I wasn't, because I was like, I'm not getting in the politics box. But I have been from the very beginning in the COVID box. Like, I know from the beginning that I had different thoughts than everybody else. I guess because I've been in healthcare, knowing a virus, not sure what to do about it, nobody has the answers, and science now is not science anymore. So I don't understand that either.
That our experts can't even agree, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So then you're lost in the middle of that.
I went, what is going on? So what I did is I had to take personal responsibility. So personal responsibility for me. And if I had needed to protect other people, I took that responsibility seriously. I didn't just flippantly do it. But at the same time, I knew, because of who I am and thriving, I had to do certain things out to thrive, or else I would have went into a pit. So it's kind of like, and trying to help others, trying to, the whole reason the show is because of COVID, really, and trying to help others and to spread that love and that peace and that calm, and not focus on the anxiety and fear of it, but let's focus on what we can do to control here. Again, taking the focus of everything coming at you and focusing on inward out, so that awakening's within, that's what that means. And so with God helping me to, illuminate and to, just stay calm through all of it and be wise, though. I wasn't being, I almost felt like I was being judged and people were thinking I was being careless. And that really offended me a little bit. I was offended by that a little bit, but I understood why they thought it. And I understood because of their fear and where they were at. So, it challenged every single relationship I had. It's challenged every single one. Like my relationship with my kids, my siblings, and my parents. It challenged all of those relationships, because we had to make decisions as a family throughout the whole year on, do we visit each other? Do we go near each other? Do we do any gatherings? It challenged a lot of different things, and it brought up a lot of different things to the good. Like, it wasn't all bad. When I say challenging doesn't mean it's bad. Challenging sometimes means you're resolving some things that were in your relationships that were bad, right? So this actually helped to kind of smooth over some things that we all thought about each other. And it brought it up.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, and it brought it up to the surface. So we had to deal with it this year. I mean, I have to say, a lot of people are saying, and I see Lance was talking about his kids, and that's why I went off on that. Yeah, I mean, I had to deal with the same thing, Lance. I mean, my kids judged me. I mean, which was crazy. I was like, wait a minute, you're judging, my one son was like, Mom, I think that you're going too many places. He had a thought about that. And I was like, okay, you can think that, but that's not your place to have any kind of really decision on that, like.
Well, I think for me, one of the things that's really bothering me is that, from my perspective, God created humanity in a way that he wanted to display diversity and harmony. In other words, he didn't make us all the same.
No.
Right? And part of the reason for that is that when you think of God, I mean, he's whole. He's the complete. I mean, he's the whole enchilada, right?
Yeah.
And there's no way that we humans can all display the fullness of God. We can only display hues, colors, pieces of it, right? And so the beauty of it is that if we can find harmony and come together, we can display the fullness of God, right? But what's happening right now is just the opposite.
It's not.
And I think it's really bothering me. Like, it's really breaking my heart right now.
Maybe that's what it is.
What?
Yeah. Right. It's breaking your heart over it.
Right. I feel this sadness in my soul. And it's our warped value system. And it's the two R's. The need to be right is trumping, excuse the word, the need to be in a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, and that really is bothering me. Like, relationships are crumbling because people need to be right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, there's something terribly wrong with this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Casting Crowns does that. When you were talking about feeling what the Father feels, and there's a song by Casting Crowns. I'm trying to think of what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about, breaking your heart, like his, and that's been this whole time. It's like, I want people to not fear and have that anxiety and not have this doomsday outlook. I want them to have reality, like what you're feeling right now. I mean, the reality of it is, that's true, is that there are things crumbling, but what can we do individually, one person at a time? And that's really what I've always thought. Like, this is a platform for that, is how can we help each other? How can we be servants to one another?
I think part of it, though, is you've got to stop and take stock in what your value system is.
Yeah.
Like, where do you get, and the reason I say that is because your values are really the software.
Yeah.
And the lens of which your life operates on.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't stop and take stock in what your values are, you have no foundation.
Yeah.
So once you stop for a second and you ask yourself, well, what's more important to me? In my value rankings, does being right outweigh relationships? Well,
Yeah.
what's broken my heart is I have spent the whole last year watching rightness
Yeah. That's what's,
overpower relationships, and they're breaking all over the place.
yeah.
So in a time when we need each other more than ever,
Yes.
we're breaking apart.
Yes.
You see what I mean? It's like I'm looking at, I think that's what's bothering me right now. It's like this is all wrong. Like this is, you know what I mean? So I think those of us who are people of faith or people who have strong values almost have to grab the torch
Yeah.
and just go, stop the madness. Like,
Yeah.
stop this and let's get back to relationships and valuing one another and realizing that just because two people think differently doesn't make one right and the other wrong. It just makes you
Right.
different.
Makes us different. That's right. I mean, we have to have, you know, I always like to hear somebody else's opinion that's different than mine, because sometimes they can give me more knowledge and I might change my mind. It doesn't mean that my mind is totally 100% made up. I mean, I can actually listen to a debate and say, hey, I see your point. You know, I can see from your viewpoint, and maybe I might not 100% agree with it, but maybe, you know, giving me a good amount of knowledge on something maybe that I didn't understand or have a different perspective of. And it's like, you know, I do wish that everybody could be open-minded like that and kind of, you know, come together and just have that, like you're saying, not be right, but let's just agree to disagree, or let's just, you know, let's put that aside,
you
or
know,
what can I learn from you? You know, what is it? Why do you feel that way? Where did you get that opinion from? Or
right.
why do you have that opinion versus, you know, well, you know, and you have to see the source of all of that, you know, and
Well, I think one of the, you know, I don't know if it's advantage or disadvantages that I've had is the fact that I've traveled extensively. You know, I've probably been to 2/3 of the countries in the world.
right.
And in that traveling, I have been exposed to hundreds of different cultures.
Yeah.
And as when I was younger, I had such dogmatic right, wrong. There's a right and a wrong way to do this. I mean, everything was so black and white. You know what I mean? But it's because I lived in a bubble, right? I was an American from Milwaukee or Kansas City.
Yeah.
You know, a Midwesterner, and I had these very clear boundaries and very clear, you know, way of looking at things. And then I started traveling and I started meeting all kinds of people who looked at things quite differently, who were all doing quite well themselves. And they were raising their children maybe differently than I was. I mean, things were just different. And there's some hilarious stories I could probably share at some point that were just like eye openers for me, you know, like things that were way outside my comfort zone. And yet the people that I was with, it was just like, they're normal. Like they were like, what's your problem, dude? You know?
that is something, you know, on the, I, you know, hang out with some older folk on the weekends, and they were missionaries, and he'll sit there and tell me stories. You know, he was a physician, so he'll tell me all these stories, and it just, I mean, they're so amusing because he ran into so many different things, and he, you know, ran into people that were in World War II. He ran into all, you know, over in Germany, and he ran into people in Africa and in China. And so, I mean, he's got these flowery stories, like they're just the most interesting things. And he's given me a different perspective on some things on the world. Well, you know, he's helped
give you
share
one
that.
example, a G-rated version. In 1984, my first trip to Zimbabwe, I go to a village, and because of their culture, they line up with the chief always at the front of the line, and then there's sort of a pecking order as you go down. And they all wanted to meet this distinguished guest from America that had come to their village, right? And so they introduced me to the chief, and so I bow my head and I shake his hand. He can barely speak a word of English, but anyways, I honor him. And then my host says to me, and this is his wife. And so, like, I'm taking some time to honor her, and my host is pulling me along, right, to meet the next woman, who he says, and this is his wife. And my brain went, wait a minute, did I just have a deja vu? Like, I was confused, right? Because in my world, a man only has one wife, right? And so when he said it, it didn't register. And I looked at him, and he realized when I looked at him with the confusion in my eyes, what was going on. And he started laughing, and he said, he whispered in my ear, just go with it. And then introduced me to his next wife, right? So anyways, here I am. I'm meeting this man with 3 wives. Well, my Western Judeo-Christianity kicks in, my Bible training, all my everything kicks in. And I'm absolutely convinced that this is a disaster. Not only is it wrong, I don't say any of this, right?
Right.
But I'm convinced that this just can't work.
Well,
that man just died last year at 90 years old with name was Stephen, and his 3 wives were like sisters.
Right.
Every time I would go back there, they would greet me. They got along so well. He had 60 kids between them. Well, there was a 4th wife who wasn't there at that point, but he had 60 children with these 4 wives who all got on fabulously. Like, they absolutely upset my whole worldview, right? Because all I kept thinking was of some sitcom in America where the women were going at each other, you know what I mean? And it was just like, all the time that I was there, their kids are all wonderful, highly successful.
Right. So you had, right.
And so I had to okay, wait a minute. Whoops. You see what I mean? And take a step back and go, this is just different.
Right. The Bible's filled with that story.
I know, but I'm a New Testament Christian.
But excuse me.
And Stephen was, he was, literally, there was a genocide going on, and this one man saved thousands of people.
There you go.
He was, a godly man.
Right.
He has 4 wives and 60 kids.
Right. And that's the issue. I was saying that not too long ago. I mean, God uses every situation and everything. He doesn't, and none of that goes to waste. He is in the midst of things that people are not aware that he's in the midst of,
Exactly.
He can do all things. All right. So
all kinds of people.
And he uses
don't think or look like us.
Right. He uses people we don't think he would be using.
That's right. Because they're not good enough.
Right. They have this judgment thing. My whole.
Well, I remind people of this all the time. That the 2 leading figures of the early church, one was a mass murderer and the other was a racist.
That's right.
So I'm telling you, if God can take a mass murderer and give him a heart of love for the masses, and can take a racist and cause him to cross over the racial divide and be a peacemaker, I'm telling you, God can do anything with anyone.
That's it. And people have this view. We've put a cookie cutter thing out there that is not, nobody's going to be able to live up to. I'm just going to say that.
Right.
Nobody can live up to whatever it is being sold as. This is you're the most righteous if you check off all these boxes, and that's wrong.
Well, there's been in the ministry side of it, which is my world coming up. There was how do you want to say it? An unspoken sort of way of thinking, and it was this: we need to look good so God can look good. Right? In other words, there was this thing where our presentation has to look good so everybody outside of the church can think God is good.
Excellence comes
Right?
to mind.
And so, but the problem with that, hypocrisy. Right? Because the people outside the church could see right through the facade of us looking good. And so one of the things that
not always
I would try to explain to people is I said, if you go back and you look at the 4,000 years of the biblical narrative, is the thing you see over and over again is the grace of God, the kindness, the long suffering, the patience of God working through broken clay vessels.
Yes.
There's no exception. The only one who doesn't fit that mold was Jesus.
That's it.
But every single biblical character was broken, had dysfunctions, struggled in their lives, didn't live up to their own standards or God's standards, failed miserably at times.
Oh, yeah.
And yet God's still working with them.
Right.
God's not offended.
God still has a plan. He's still got a mission for you.
Exactly. So somehow or another, there's a distorted narrative that
there is,
and that's where self-righteousness, right?
And oh my gosh, that is a hard thing to live up to and under. Believe me, I had a self-righteousness problem. I had a self-inflicted self-righteousness problem, and it was pride. And self-righteousness for me translated to pride. So I lived under a mantle of, well, you all need to be doing this, and I'll tell my story at some point, but it was ugly. It's ugly, meaning it didn't look ugly. Like nobody would have known it. Like nobody would have known it because I was trying to live up to this cookie cutter thing that I thought it was. I thought
one of the phenomena of the moment that I find very fascinating, and again, this is the sociologist in me coming out, is that hypocrisy and self-righteousness were at one point sort of the territory of the religious world. What's interesting now is we have people outside who don't even like Christianity that are displaying they don't even realize it, but they're displaying a social self-righteousness.
Yeah.
Right? This social self-righteousness. And what's sad about it is, just like within the church world, whenever you have self-righteousness, you have hypocrisy, duplicity, and contradiction.
Yep.
And we're all seeing it again.
Well,
excuse me. Go ahead. I got to take a drink here. I got a tickle in my throat.
Okay. Well, what's happening is the shift is now the shift is away from the Christian church, and now it's shifted into, now we're being kind of prejudiced against a little bit. I think if you say you're a Christian, I think that there's a judgment there now. I think that people judge you as soon as you say that, and it's flipped. Like, used to be, if you weren't a Christian, you were kind of like, whoa, you're not, what, and now it's like, if you are, it's the opposite.
You know what makes self-righteousness so dangerous?
What's that?
We're blind to it.
Yeah.
I've noticed this. And again, within the church and without the church, there's a blindedness. Like, you're sitting there and you're looking at it and you're going, oh my God, do you realize how self-righteous you sound? And yet the person who's being self-righteous is completely oblivious to it. Why? Because they're right.
Because they think they're right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm doing all the right things. What do you mean? I can't be wrong. I'm doing all the right things, Bob.
Here's where, so that's the first danger. The first danger is you are absolutely blinded to it.
Yes.
The second danger, which is the one that concerns me even more, is that is the root of all persecutions, martyrdoms, genocides. In other words, when you go back and you look at the history of humanity and what we've done to each other, the justification for us killing other human beings is I'm right.
Yeah.
And you're so wrong. We have the right to eliminate you.
Well, I stay in so in my leisure time, I watch a lot of old medieval, in the kings and the queens and what's that?
Inquisition.
I watch that stuff all the time. And it's like they, if a person said, hey, that person did this to me, they would go and they'd, chop their head off. They'd behead them without even a trial or anything. They would just say, well, this person said they did this and they were wrong. And now they're, headless. Yeah. So it happened like that for real. And so, I mean, that's what it reminds me of. It's like, there's no trial. There's no reasoning. And that's what, I don't know. I'm a little fearful.
What's the cure to self-righteousness?
Huh?
What's the cure to self-righteousness? It's like, what's the antidote? And the only thing I can think of is humility.
Yeah, humble.
Right. In other words, what Jesus talked about was meekness. Yeah. Right. And people have always sort of thought the word meek meant weak, and that's not what he's talking about.
No, meek is being putting your own pride.
It takes a great deal of strength to be meek, because your natural tendencies are, for instance, he talked about when you go into a room, don't sit at the front of the table. Well, that's our natural tendency. We want to go to the front and be noticed and be the center of attention. Jesus comes along and says, no, be meek. Go sit at the back and wait to be invited up. Well, that's counterintuitive for not everyone, but for most people. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's a lot of things where, and it when it comes to having discussion and dialogue, right? The need to be right again, right? Yeah. The need to make sure that everybody sees things exactly like I do. That's pride. Humility, what humility is a teachable spirit. It's a teachable heart. Yeah. What humility actually is, it's the willingness to humble oneself and say, I don't know everything. Right. I still have a lot to learn. I'm 64 years old. I still am a student.
Yeah.
Everybody expects me to be a teacher. That's the role that I take when I go visit places or I write books. I'm the teacher, but my heart is that of the student.
That's good. That's all.
But that's my way of making sure that my heart's there. And that's how I fight off self-righteousness, because I think we all have a tendency towards it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's we all can sort of end up there if we're not careful. So my antidote to fighting self-righteousness is humility. What about you?
Humility, but love, like unconditional love. No, I think unconditional love is what blots it out even more. You can humble yourself, but you have to unconditionally love someone too and forgive them. And the forgiveness and unconditional love has to happen,
Well, again, you're talking about a concept that's distinctly Christian, because if you go by the Hollywood version of love, it's how that other person makes me feel, what they do for me. Like, I'm in love. He or she is so nice to me. And, look what and when you hear people talk, and it's all about what they do for me. Right. Where what you're talking about is Jesus' version of love, which is actually selfless. Self is not a factor in the equation. It's selfless.
And what's hard is that sometimes when that unconditional love and that can look like foolishness. when you operate out of unconditional love and grace with people, I think that other people look at you as being foolish. And that's hard because they think, that I don't know. That's been my experience, is that like you were saying, meekness and weakness, it looks weak or it looks meek, it's actually a stronger attribute than I think people understand.
Mm.
And if we could all just treat each other like that, like, okay, they're not trying to get, maybe they will get one over on me. Maybe I will get taken advantage of. But this is what I have found. God will multiply that in blessings back to you. He really will. He
Well,
really
that's it.
does.
I'm in a
He
situation
restores
right
it.
now where this is speaking to me because I've got to make some choices that I don't really want to do, but I need to.
He will restore those things. You will not look foolish. He's who we have to lean
Well, no,
on.
in this case, I need to be nice to somebody who's wrong, I feel has wronged me. And
Right.
it's a real character building moment, right? Because it's like my natural tendency is, well, wait a minute. You know what I mean?
You-
You did this, and this. I owe you nothing. Now you're asking me,
Well,
you know what I mean? So I'm having to, practice in the next few days. I gotta like put my big boy pants on and
practice some grace.
yeah,
Grace that's not. I mean, we don't deserve what we got either. So
exactly.
that's what what's that? But God, but Jesus, he did it, and there's a lot of people out there that don't even recognize what he did for them, and he still did it. So, it's one of those things. I always have to go back and go, oh, that's right, the sacrifice, and God restores things. I mean, he really does. He really, and he doesn't always restore it the same way you lost it. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. When he restores you, he gives you something different, maybe even not even the same blessing back, but he will bless you back as long as you look to him and focus in on what he wants you to do with it. How do you think Jesus would handle it? How do you think God would handle it? What would he do? It sounds cliche. What would Jesus do? But what would Jesus do? He would be very, he was, that's the thing that people, I wish they would study Jesus a little bit more. Sometimes is, yes, Jesus was love and all of that, but he was also not. When he went and flew the tables over, he was telling the truth.
Issue with hypocrisy and duplicity.
Right.
I mean, when you realize what Jesus was after was authenticity, and when he got around people who were not authentic, he had a problem. And the reason I say that was he got accused of being a friend of sinners because he was hanging around with people that were culturally outcasts.
Yes.
Right. But
yes.
the funny thing about it was they were authentic.
Yeah.
They weren't hiding their brokenness. Yeah. So he was more comfortable with broken people who were authentic than self-righteous people who are hypocrites.
Yeah, I feel like, and I'm not saying this being judgmental, but I feel like our culture is the easiest at hiding those things. I mean, I think our culture, it just propagates it. I think, we propagate that hypocrisy. And yeah, Michael, the Sermon on the Mount, that we don't work in our system, but have expectation of justice for the normal person. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. We are blessed when persecuted. Anyone persecuted is misunderstood. Yep. It's true. Well, I definitely sending you some prayers about whatever your situation is. And, it's hard. It's hard. It's funny. I was talking to a friend before we got on tonight too. And I'm kind of at a place where I'm like, I used to be such a people pleaser.
Mhm.
And now I'm at a place where I'm like, I do have to do some things for myself.
Mm.
I do need to put myself first in some situations, but
Well, there's
I'm
a scripture where it talks about Jesus knew what was in the hearts of men, therefore he didn't give himself to them. And that's the hard part in this journey is that, you've been through some things last year where it's like you gave your heart and then people just, they don't value, you know what I mean? It's like, this is your heart and they're like trampling over it.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is you just learn that I got to be wise. I got to be smart. I got to be a little bit more discerning and where I open up and where I don't open up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sad in a way though, because we're all walking on eggshells. It's like I mean this sincerely. It feels like it feels to me like people feel like they're living on a minefield. It's like there's this tentativeness in people because you're just so uncertain anymore as to what to say because you're so afraid that you're going to trip somebody and they're going to blow up on you.
Well, and that's kind of what I was talking about before I got on here. I kind of don't care anymore. I kind of don't care.
That's what Lance was saying. Got to a place.
I'm just like, I don't care if they like what I said or didn't. I don't care if you're mad at me that I go out to the club and dance and live my life. I kind of don't care at this point. But at the same time, I'm being wise about it. I am. And I do want people, to still, not think of me as being foolish, at the same time. I mean, this has
been an absolutely brutal season for people pleasers. Because it's like you just like running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to please everyone, and you can't because people are so polarized. There's like, used to be there was this middle, and you deviate a little bit to the left and a little bit to right, and there was grace for that, right? People now it's just whoom, whoom. And so it's like if you're a people pleaser, you're just living in no man's land.
If you don't wear your mask in somewhere. God forbid you walk somewhere and not have a mask on. I mean, I forgot it the other day. I really did. I mean, it was there. I forgot to put it on. And they were like, "Oh, you don't have your mask." And I'm like, I was just
situation yesterday. I
was like, "Oh my God."
Yesterday where I was at a place, I was picking up something and I looked at the name on a bag and the guy that was standing there started screaming at me. What are you doing? And I'm like, I need to pick something up. And I was trying to see if that's the name on the, on the bag. And he got all upset. Like he snapped at me just because I looked at his bag. I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean? I was just like, wow, you talk about landmines. You can't even look at people's bags anymore without getting upset.
No, and I don't feel like it's changed. Like it was like this last year, and it's still that way now.
It's still like that, and so it's like I feel like I'm tiptoeing.
I don't understand it because if a lot of people are getting vaccines, why are we still so scared? I don't understand.
But it's not even just the vaccine. I'm talking about in so many things. You just find yourself nervous that you're going to trip somebody's wire. And their bomb is going to blow off on. That's like they're going to, people are so tense or they're so uptight right now that you're just, I feel like I'm tiptoeing through a minefield because I'm, a simple thing of looking at a name on a bag ends up tripping where they get angry at you, or you're driving around town and they're,
Or remember I told you how that guy thought I laughed at him.
Yeah.
And they sent me a $10 gift card in the mail because he hung up on me.
Well, it's just I just think
so weird. You laughed at me,
right?
What? Huh?
Well, no, see, some people, like Lance, guys like Lance, they're like lying, like minefield digger uppers. Like they'll just go right through the dang minefield, right? Mike Jones like that.
Try me.
Most people though just go, I'm not even going in there. Like
Well, see,
they just give up. Like, I'm not even gonna risk going through that minefield.
I think I'm more on the Lance end. I think I think
Plow
I have
through
a
it.
little bit of a rebel.
And if you blow up, sorry, I got steel so thick you ain't gonna.
Well, you know, I never was like that. I used to never be like that. And it's taken me a lot to get a thicker skin. I mean, I had the thinnest skin.
Those IUDs or IDs, those bombs. I don't know. I don't know but I'm talking about in the
I was
Middle
going,
East.
contraception? What?
Those roadside bombs. Remember, you drive over them. So they started building these vehicles that had these like ridiculously thick.
Yes, I wanted a Hummer. Yes,
right.
I want a Hummer.
So I guess what you're saying is we all got to get thick steel bellies.
Right, because and I agree. Trust in no one, not even yourself. It's true. I don't even trust myself sometimes. Because you trust God. And then Jason, I stopped giving any crap when others think you never ever please everyone. It's true. And I never, I never thought I would feel that way. I always thought I'd be a people pleaser, but I guess not. I want to do, sometimes not pleasing somebody is actually helpful to them. That's what that it dawned on me one day. Like, I'm not helping the person by not telling them the truth and not letting them go through their own experience. If you don't let people go through their own experience of hardship and all those things, you're actually robbing them. You're actually robbing them of the lesson and the experience and of what God could actually do in their life. You're actually robbing them. You are not God. You are not their savior. So you need to not be that person to them, and you aren't their savior. So you have to show them, that tough, love, because an unconditional love, but a tough love, because if you allow that, then they'll never learn anything. And it robs them and robs you. Because then you put yourself on this little pedestal, right? And that's how pride starts to happen. Is like, if you think you're controlling everything and you're something to somebody else, and you help save the person, now you've kind of put yourself up on a pedestal. So you have to be really careful of that. And I was such a people pleaser that I didn't realize I was doing that. Like, and I'm speaking of my own experience of, I thought I was helping everyone when actually I was hurting them. And it was a hard reality to come to, because when it came time for all those people to disperse and I needed help from someone, I had no one. And the reason I had no one is because I had been everything to everybody else and nobody knew how to help me. And it was a really sad time, a really sad thing, where I had to lean on God only at that point. And so what did it taught me something, definitely taught me something. And guess what? He has more answers than any person does anyway, right? He has all your answers for you. We don't have the answers. He has the answers. So my job now is to constantly direct back to him, because I can't help every single person. I do life coaching and I do coaching, but coaching is different than saving. Coaching is actually you coming to that revelation yourself and what God wants you to do within that. Has nothing, I'm just going to give you the blueprint on, hey, maybe check, maybe do 1, 2, 3 goal, whatever. But that's not me saving somebody. I no longer, I've taken myself out of that field, of trying to save people, because, just one story is whenever we would give money.
We're way over time.
Oh, are we? Do you want me to go?
No, that's up to you. It's just that,
I'll just say, this organization I was with, this church I was with, anytime we would give money to someone, to a family to help them, we'd go, are we sure we're going to give them money? And we'd be like, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. And we would, because we know they would be gone. like every time we gave a family money, they would never come back to church. And
Mm.
so that was like and these were, these were even families that were there for a long time, where I'm not talking about just came by to get money. I'm talking about we help them. And isn't that a weird thing? Like I, as a sociologist, I mean, what's the sociology behind that? They felt
Well, that's
guilty.
another show because it's really getting late and I got to roll.
Oh, well, you better roll.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
I'm pretty much, I booked myself so that when
Oh, I'm so
7:30
sorry.
comes, I'm moving
Okay.
on to the next thing. So let's put that on.
We'll put that
next
on
Thursday.
Monday.
Remind me next Thursday and let's unpack that.
Think about that. I'll give you time to think about that.
Okay,
Anyway,
cool.
prayers out to you all. Thank you guys for joining us tonight, for being so interactive. And Bob, prayers for you
Thanks.
and all of that. So
All right.
you guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you next week.